Enterprise Management 360.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Tech Chat. Here we are at Whitehall Media's BDA and I'm joined by our client director, David Argent. David, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And first of all, I want to get your kind of thoughts on the event. What can people look forward to? What's happening today?
Well, it's been, as you can see behind us, an absolute buzz with some excellent data professionals. And already this morning, I've seen some great case studies from the likes of Royal Mail and Saint-Gobain. And they're really talking about their data journey, but you know, getting those stakeholders involved, there's still the same old problems, and how to monetize data, getting other groups and stakeholders to actually buy into the data-driven sort of ethos that's really, as you can see already, being discussed a lot today. So excited to see what chats are going on this afternoon. Really want to drill down to some of the vendors and how they're tackling the solutions. And yeah, hopefully we can speak to a couple of the end users who are beginning their journey and also helping some of our subscribers give advice of how to best tackle some of the issues that are coming up that are being discussed at today's event.
Definitely, and I've got a lot of exciting interviews lined up, so let's get started with that first chat. So now I'm joined here by Linda from Pythian. Thank you so much for joining me today. I first of all want to get a little background on yourself and also what Pythian does.
I'm the VP of Analytics for Pythian. I have a global mandate, and my mission in life is to help organizations turn their data into useful business outcomes.
So I wanted to follow on from your talk that you did this morning and kind of ask, how do organizations get real value from running analytics in the cloud?
I think the cloud part is because it's an enabler. It allows you to take all your data, bring it together in a place where it can be stored inexpensively and made accessible to people. But the cloud is just the technology part of it. The real question is, okay, now that the data is there, how do we turn it into useful value? And we talked today about our journey on the analytics maturity spectrum, and usually it starts with people who just see, I want to see my business. I want to get some insights into what we're doing, how we're doing it, who's buying, who's not. And that's what we call the see. You get to see your business. And people very quickly realize that now that they've seen what's going on, they want to be able to act on it. So analytics can take you to the next stage, which is to predict what you should do next. And that's the next stage in the evolution. And once you've predicted what you should be doing next, there's an opportunity to take that prediction and embed it in your other business systems so that your analytics system is doing things for you automatically and changing and improving all the time. And that's really the holy grail, when you can use your data not just to see, but to actually take the right actions for your business.
Well, Linda, thank you so much for your insight today and taking the time to talk to me. And I hope the talk went well and enjoy the rest of the day. So now I'm joined by Anna from Conforti AG. Anna, thank you so much for joining me today. So I think a good jumping off point here is if you could just give us a little bit of background on Conforti.
No problem. So thanks, Max. Real pleasure to be here today as well. It's an unusual event for us because, traditionally we are known within the security world. Our understanding from an audience is from security information officers and CIOs, but today is all about big data and analytics. History of Conforti is that we've developed a platform that inherently protects sensitive information, whether that be credit cards, whether it be personal identifiable information, is irrelevant. But with regards to big data and analytics, what's really important is to ensure that you've protected that information in a form, but you can still use it. So regardless of, us being a security technology software and, provider to the market, we've shifted into big data in the recent years. And as we were discussing earlier, is that, only really in the past 4 or 5 years has security become a topic of conversation in the big data world. So it's really interesting. As I, expressed and spoke to the audience about this earlier, there is some fundamentals to make sure that security is approached correctly. one of the topics of conversation was a really interesting one, which was about, legacy systems, legacy applications that we all know. We're not static. No organisation has entered into the world with one flat architecture and data only being created in one area. It's everywhere. So embracing security from a level of combining what your business outcome needs to be, but plus also including where your legacy data is really, really important, especially if you're wanting to take that data and monetize it. So if you really need to, tokenize or encrypt the information early on in its life cycle, you have to make sure that that's built in very early on in big data monetization projects to ensure that you can still get the outcome of the data, but without actually presenting a security risk. So bringing teams and specialists in the organization and getting them to work and collaborate together to really understand, what's the business outcome and the goals and the drivers behind how they're going to monetize information, and then two, what regulation is required for them to do that, because otherwise, if that's not understood, security generally put a blocker on these projects and initiatives.
So I'm joined now by Adam. Adam, thank you so much for joining me. If you could first of all just give me a little bit of background on what Nebo does.
Yeah, absolutely. So Nebo is a virtual analytics hub that we're really excited to be bringing to market. Essentially, it is really about the ability to be able to connect and find data that sits in various sources across the organisation, whether that's on-premise, in the cloud, embedded in various SaaS and various applications. Once you've been able to get that virtual access to that point, how can you then easily connect, combine and collaborate with the various departments and colleagues to basically better understand and trust that data? And really what we're trying to do is speed that point from where it sits in these various silos down to the end point that people want to consume it in. So that might be a Jupyter notebook environment, it might be Tableau, it might be Power BI, but the typical challenge most organizations have is that a user cannot simply just go and do this without needing IT or someone maybe more technical to be able to actually go and get that data. And we always hear the age-old adage of 80% of data science time is spent doing data prep work, and the other 20% is being unhappy about the fact that they're spending so much time doing that. And really, if we can alleviate that problem, help bring the business and the data science, BI, and bring all these guys together, hopefully that's where we start to really be able to collaborate, build trust in the data, better reuse, and ultimately speed that time from raw data to insight.
Yeah, definitely. Perfectly summarized, I like it. So what are the kind of benefits of virtualization and data, and more of an approach of the other aspects of what you do here? Virtualization
Can sometimes be seen as just a case of stopping movement of data, reducing the IT sort of cost, so to speak. But really, like I say, we're not just about that virtualization piece. We're really looking at how you go about bringing all of these centralized architectural approaches of building an EDW, building a lake, and then most often you find that Excel and PDF documents are all over the organization. And actually, when you're trying to answer really complex business questions and not what happens in the last quarter sales, we want to know, why did that happen? How can we affect change? Did the weather, did the geography affect that? Can I see it on a heat map? And you want to continue to do iterative analytics, and the only way to be able to answer those complex questions is to get more data that normally resides in various silos. And as long as you have the permissions to be able to go and access that, then why shouldn't you as a user be able to virtually connect to these places, bring it in, do your sort of discovery, and if you do find something insightful, then be able to get that into production. And I suppose more often than not as well, rather than building everything from scratch.
Adam, well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me and give your insight. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Cheers.
And that's a wrap here on this episode of Tech Chat. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode, and also thank you to everyone who took the time to speak to us. Now, if you're interested in generating leads for your business, then make sure you head on over to the Tell Us Your Audience page, where we can generate your content across North America, APAC and Europe, and then we can generate SQLs and MQLs right back to you. Also, make sure you do follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn to see all of the great content we're producing, and to get all the main content, go to em360tech.com. We'll be back next week with another Tech Chat. Thanks for joining us.